Today, let's take a look at lists. And if you've already watched the video on strings and worked with them a little bit, you're going to find out that lists are very, very similar in the syntax. So here I have a list of numbers, and just like strings, or here's the output up here. We'll walk through the output. If you want to find the length of a list, you just use the len function. You can see there's 6 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that makes sense. Lists also use 0 indexing. So if I print nums0, I will get the element 2, and nums1 is 7, and then nums5 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be that 8 at the end. So that makes sense. Just like before, if you try to access an element that does not exist in the list, you get an index out of range. All right, you get list index out of range error. So comment that back out and rerun it. We can use negative indexes as well. So -1 will give us the last item in the list, and -2 will give us the second to last item in the list, and so forth. Slicing works the same. So it's a start and then an up to but not including. So if I go from 1 to 4, here's element 1, 2, 3. It does not include 4, so I get 7, 1, 8. And here's just a couple more examples. 0 to 2 would give me the elements 0 and 1, and 2 through 8. This is just showing here that with a slice, the second number, you won't go out of bounds on it, since 8 is past the end of the list. Here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there is no 8th element. So it just gives you what's there if you make the second number too big. So it's a little bit different. You can go out of bounds when you're accessing an individual, or out of range when you access an individual element, but when you're doing a slice, you will not. The same shorthand as strings applies. If you leave off the first number, then it says, just start at the beginning. So this will be elements 0, 1, and 2. And if you leave off the second part after the colon, then it's just going to go all the way to the end. So this is going to be elements 3 through the end of the list, which is right here. Negative indices are also fine to use in slices. So this is from element 1 up to but not including the very last element of the list. So we got the middle 4 in this case. This is from the second to last element all the way to the end, because I left that blank. And here is from the beginning all the way up to but not including the third to the last element, right? Now, I made my list nums, and you can see that they're numeric values because they're not in quotes, but there's no reason that lists need to contain numbers. They can contain any kind of data we want. So here, just for example, is a list of strings. I printed the length here, and I got 5, and that's just because I wanted to show that, this may be unclear. It's like, well, what is the length of the list? And it's not like the number of characters in the list. It's the number of items separated by commas here. So the length is 5, right? I just wanted to make sure you understood it had nothing to do with the length of like all the words together in it. And the same indexing applies. So words 3 is 0, 1, 2, 3, and we got data. All right. We'll look at some basic list operations that we can do, and then I'll solve a few example problems. So if we have 2 lists, so here's A and B, and I want to combine them, we can just combine them with a plus operator. And I printed out C here, and you can see that, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that makes sense. If we want to add a single element to a list, we use the append function. So I've got words up here, and I appended algorithm, and you can see in my output that algorithm has been added to the end of the list, right? So that's where I printed words. Something you might think you can do, and let's try this, is like, well, rather than use append, right? If I can add 2 lists, why can't I just take a list and add another item to it? And I get this can only concatenate list, not string, to a list. And we've run into this before, where like you can't put a plus operator between like a numeric value and a string either. Right, 2 numeric values, Python goes, I should do arithmetic. 2 strings, it goes, I should concatenate. But if you do mixed types on either side of a plus operator, then it's like, well, I don't know what to do with that. So it throws an error. So a plus operator between two lists means you must want me to join the two lists together. But a plus operator, so in general, don't use plus operators between mixed types of objects. All right, so let's see. Let's solve a couple problems. Just so we can demonstrate some of that syntax. So here's a very simple one. It says, let's return true if a list of ints starts with 5 and false otherwise. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just, let's grab the first element. And that's going to be nums 0. And then I could say if first is equal to 5, return true, else return false. And so we're going to test it out right here. And so this is a call on a list that does start with the 5. So this should hopefully print true, and this will print false. And let's go ahead and see. And we got true and false. So that worked as intended. Now this code right here could definitely be improved. So I'll do this is one of those situations where I'm going, if this expression evaluates to true, then return true. And if it evaluates to false, then return false. So I really should just be returning this expression. And I can simplify it to there. And it still works exactly the same. And if you really wanted to simplify this, we could actually just substitute into there. And, for simple problems, I think that's okay. Sometimes when it's more complex, I think grabbing all the values first and then making a return statement after is a little bit easier. So, all right, so here we go. So that works. Problem number 2, return a new list consisting of the first and last elements of nums. So here, first is equal to nums 0. And last is equal to nums. And now we have something to consider, right? In this list, the last element is at index 0, 1, 2, but in this list, the last element is at 3. But don't forget, we can use negative indexes. And so this will be the last element of a list of any length, of any size. And it says return a new list. So I'm going to return, and I'm going to make a list that is first, comma, last. And let's see what we get. So I got a 5 and a 1, and a 3 and a 1. So that worked. Let's see. And I guess this would be the last problem. And so I'm going to return a new list consisting of the first 2 elements of A and the last 2 elements of B. And so this will be my list. This will get passed in for A. This is B. This is my test. And so let's do first of A. Make good variable names that represent what they are. And it's going to be A and the first 2 elements. Right? I think the easiest way to do this is a shorthand that starts at the beginning and goes up to, but not including element 2. So this will get us elements 0 and 1. And the last of B equals. And the last 2 elements of B, right? Again, we don't know, this should work on an array of any length. So we'll start at the second to last element, and then we'll leave nothing after the colon, and this will get us a slice from the second to last all the way to the end. And so I return, and this is one where we can use addition. First A plus last B. And let's run it. Oops. Run module. And let's see, we got 5, 3, 7, 9, and that worked. So hopefully this gets you used to the basic list syntax, and I think it should be real easy, especially if you've already figured out strings. So if you have any questions, just let me know.